Now to the second half of our exclusive interview with State Superintendent Ryan Walters, discussing curriculum changes, the Bible in classrooms, and what's being done to help teachers. Here's Fox 23's Devin Lyon with the rest of his in-depth, unedited interview.
Aware of, you said some of these left-wing attorneys, my mistake, have attacked teachers to not teach the Bible class. Where has that been happening? Do you have any examples of that?
Yeah, Freedom From Religion Foundation is one that loves to come in and threaten lawsuits in the state of Oklahoma. So they're based out of Wisconsin. They've threatened multiple school districts in the state. They've threatened to sue me multiple times, but they've threatened to sue teachers for referencing the Bible, for having Bible verses on their wall. And so here's the reality. The left doesn't have, they can be offended by our history. They cannot like it, but they can't rewrite our history. So the reality is they can be offended all they want. They can't go in and lie to kids and pretend that the Bible didn't play any historical role in our nation's history. Our kids deserve the truth, and we're going to keep fighting for the truth.
Okay, and so with the Bible being required in classrooms, how is that being taught? Is this going to be, referring to how the book of Amos was quoted by Martin Luther King at one, or is it going to be the Beatitudes in the classroom, or is it going to be a little bit both? Parents are there is concerns being raised about what's being taught from the Bible and how and who's going to teach it.
Yeah, so good question. So what we're doing is we're developing those further guidance now for teachers to be able to see, but it's going to be taught in its historical context. So what role did it play in American history, right? When Thomas Jefferson said we're endowed by our Creator, he's talking about God. He's talking about his understanding and that view of society of the God of the Bible. And so our kids are going to be given that context. You have the Pilgrims. Why did they come to America? If you don't reference their belief on the Bible, it doesn't really make sense, right? So we're going to have those type of historical contexts in there. And then look, in literature classes, just like you study different books and novels and historical documents throughout history, the Bible should be in there too. Again, it's the #1 best-selling book, most read book in American history. So if it doesn't meet the bar to be in a classroom in its historical context, well, what book does? So that's the way that the Bible will be included in our curriculum.
A large criticism for this bill being set for Bibles in classrooms is, if you're going to teach one religious text, teach all of them. What would you say to that? Because if we're trying to teach such a diverse American or Western history, there might be argument to teach other religious texts as well. So will other religious texts be required as well? How does that look for the OC?
Yeah, look, so this isn't exclusionary. This isn't saying this is it. This is the only kind of primary source we use. In a world history class, you see references to other religions and the role that it played in their history. But in American history, it was the Bible that had a major influence. So again, in American history, you're going to see a lot of references to the Bible because that's the way history bore out. That doesn't mean we won't include other religious texts and citations there as they're historically appropriate. But to be clear, the one book that's under attack by the left is the Bible. That's the one that they don't want in the classroom. That's why we've got to come in here and make sure that teachers are supported, that parents and families know, listen, when our kid goes to school, we're not going to allow the left to censor the Bible out of our history. Your kids are going to understand the historic role the Bible played in the history of America. And again, the left doesn't like it. They're offended by it. They want it out, but they can't rewrite our history. We're not going to allow them to remove this from the classroom.
Gotcha. I just have a few more questions. So when you say the left, do you mean the left side as a whole with their liberal values? Because there are the left who share Christian faith. Sure. What do you mean when you say the left?
Yeah, no, great point. So listen, here in Oklahoma, frankly, I talk to Republicans, Democrats, and independents that all agree on this issue, that say, listen, history's history. Teach the Bible, it's part of our history. But then you have these radical leftists that are so far on the left of the spectrum that they're really Marxists. They come in and say, we don't like Christianity, we don't like America, we want to completely fundamentally change this country. You've heard that type of language from the Biden administration. You've heard it from the teachers unions. They want this complete shift away. Well, that's radical. That's not aligned with Oklahoma values. That's not aligned with American values. And those groups have been able to bully their way into pushing education policy. And so we've been really clear that day is over. We will continue to make sure that history is being taught, that the teachers unions won't be able to control the classroom with the most radical ideology we've ever seen in this country's history.
Okay, and so I'm going to have to move on a little quickly here because we're running out of time. But left wing, right wing, the Bible's in classrooms, or social studies, these are all great. But if we can't fund the classroom and we're using books from 10 years ago, I spoke with some teachers yesterday who were close with me. She bought her books 10 years ago, and she's still using us. What's being done to help the teachers that are rooted in Oklahoma students, in Oklahoma schools for the long haul? What's keeping them here, and what's being done to help them?
Yeah, great question. So here's one of our problems in education. The problem isn't money. The problem is how the money is being spent. We've seen record administrative growth across the state in the past decade, and we need to be spending less on bureaucrats in schools and more money into teacher pay and to students in the classroom. That's where we've pushed more transparency measures. We have pushed districts to take money from those administrative positions, cut bureaucracy, support the teachers, support the classroom, and that's what we're going to continue to do with our transparency measures and our accountability measures, which is to say, again, Oklahoma taxpayers have invested a lot in education. It's time to see the outcomes from those things, and a big part of it is to make sure that districts are spending money appropriately, and that means putting students first, not bureaucrats in the way that you're spending your budgets.
Okay, and that was my last question, so thank you so much, Mr. Walters, for joining us today on the segment. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
That was Fox 23's Devin Lyon. We have also been in contact with our local state lawmakers who have not agreed with some of the Walters claims in this interview. We will bring you their responses as well on air and on the Fox 23 News app as soon as we get them.